Games as a service is like me in an orgy. It sucks, it blows, and nobody wants it. So live services, Phil, have been a pretty big talking point for a while. And you in particular seem to be very frustrated by games as a service. So what exactly is it that frustrates you so much about them?
Games as a service on paper sounds fantastic for the end user. You know, like, think about it. We grew up in the 80s and 90s. So when we played a game, it was its own self-contained product. You didn't have any updates for it. You didn't have any DLC for it. It was just, that was it. That was the game. And so since the advent of the internet and the availability of high-speed internet, generally speaking, across, you know, most regions, now you have the ability to update your game constantly. And so on paper, that sounds fantastic. And you buy a game now, imagine one of your favorite games back in the day and going, oh, I just wish there was so much more. I wish you could do more. Well, now you can. You know, games as a service allows you to add more features, more levels, game modes, all that. And generally speaking, it's usually free too.
You serious?
So that's a big plus, and that sounds fantastic. If you told me this years ago, I would have loved the idea. You have the reality of what it really is, and it's anything but.
Objection!
This is where I completely disagree with you on a couple things. First of all, you say oftentimes it's free. It's only starting to get to that point now because of how much backlash that the gaming industry has received over monetization. Let's not forget Destiny, that basically carved out content and sold it completely separately and pretended as though it was DLC. And then when there was, oh, we're adding more content, but you have to pay for it. And in total, people have done the math. You wound up, if you wanted to get all the content day one, you had to spend $180. That's ridiculous.
Right.
So I don't agree with you there. I feel like they're only starting to get to this point because of the backlash against loot boxes and stuff. Secondly, you say, oh, think about one of your favorite games and them adding content onto it. If a game is good and self-contained, it doesn't need more content. Because I look back at something like, say, Resident Evil 4, for example. I don't want any more of that game because it's great the way that it is. It doesn't need more.
Oh, well, excuse me, all the hell.
I mean, that's a fair point, and that we're getting to that point now. But I'd say, you know, we had games that are carting off content or cutting it off for a while, though, even before this stuff. Capcom was a great example of this with on this DLC that they would just lock behind, you know, freaking code.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's just starting that with games as a service.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, you know, I'm looking at it more of the idea behind it has a lot of good potential, but the implementation is, it's not about you or me having a good time. It's about how much money can you get out of our wallet. Yeah. And if that's your end goal, then games as a service is fantastic. I mean, just all the different things that you can charge for it because of you're constantly online, and it's, hey, do you remember, you know, how we used to unlock shit, and you'd play for hours grinding some stupid freaking hat, you know, that you wanted just for aesthetic for a single player game, mind you, just single player. Now you can get that as a service now, but it's gonna cost you.
Yeah,
and this
exactly.
This goes to the part to the loot boxes, but I'm not even going to talk about loot boxes. It's just more ways to monetize you. And yeah, they give you, you know, the roadmaps that they always like to call them now. The roadmap for like Fallout 76, for Destiny, for Anthem. But there's nothing there right now. It's almost these games aren't fully complete anymore. That's
they're not.
Problem.
Yeah, because back in the day, you know, I remember Superman 64 would be a good example of a game that was completely just
oh my god
ass when it launched. It was awful. It was basically unfucking playable. It was so bad. And so that game stands as a testament to this is what happens when you rush a game out and it's not complete. Everyone hates it and they walk away from it. Now though, it's turned into we can get away with launching it like this because we can just patch it out later. We can fix this, we can fix that, and then we can add this content. And it's like, okay, what happened to actually releasing a good product at launch? Because first impressions are everything. This is a lot of the reason why I stick with single-player games so much, because they either suck ass or they're great. If it's a broken, buggy mess, then you're done. But with a live service, this is where I like the potential of it. Of course, games are much more complex to make now than they were 20 years ago. So, I mean, of course there's going to be human error at some point. People are going to make mistakes. The developers, they will make mistakes. That's fine. That's where I love this patch, you know, the whole patching thing, is because you can fix those small problems. But that's actually turned into, let's just hurry up and get it out there, completely not ready to be launched, and just tell people we'll fix it later. That's where we've gone.
Correct, and I fully agree with you on that part, because it's launch it now, patch it later. A lot of these live service games are good a year down the road, but okay, I'm gonna use Destiny as an example, because I bought into that train, that hype train. I fucking bought into that shit hard.
How embarrassing.
I was a huge fan for Bungie, and it wasn't just like the Halo days. I mean, going back to Marathon and Oni, so like way back before, and everything they did I loved. And so I'm going, oh man, Bungie's making another game again. It's a whole new IP. I'm sure it's gonna be great. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Destiny comes out with the beta, and I'm going to myself, oh, this is a good game. I like it. The gunplay is so fun. The music is great. Oh, Marty, you're fantastic with the music, and it looks beautiful. I had one friend who told me this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be a shit show. And I didn't want to believe it, because this is part of, I'm sure we'll discuss a little bit of the hype train, but I was fully on board. The problem was, though, when the game came out, that I had already played like a fourth of the damn game through the beta. So there wasn't anything there.
Yeah.
So after a couple, after a week or two, there's nothing left to do. There's PvP, but if I didn't care for PvP, and I kind of didn't, it was just constantly just doing the same thing over and over and over again for like minimal returns. And so because of games as service, the whole we'll patch it, fix it later, or we'll add shit to it later, the game is rushed, get it out the door. It has bare bones content. And so over time, here's the roadmap. Don't worry, you'll get your complete game, 6-9 months down the road. Awesome. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
Even though I already paid full price for it, and basically what you've given me for full price is a beta.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that these games, like the betas that launch nowadays, and when I say beta, I'm talking about what they call a beta, is nothing more than just a marketing tactic, because it's not actual beta.
It's a stress
They usually
test.
release, maybe a month? Yeah, they usually launch these betas like a month before the game comes out. A month is not enough time to actually fix any real issues that you have.
Oh God, no.
So it's just to get people fed into that hype train. They give you the best content that the game has in the beta, and then when you buy it, you realize that you basically just played the full extent of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And something similar was happening back in the 90s, because Doom was originally distributed through shareware. Now, here's the thing. Phil, you and I are both old fucks. A lot of people are not going to know what the hell shareware is, and I'm sure that post-millennials won't, especially since they're trying to watch this video through a haze of Cheeto dust and energy drinks.
Hey now.
Shareware was basically things got handed out on a floppy disk, and it would actually contain about a quarter of the game, and it was completely free.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could go and actually buy the game for about $20, and then you'd get the other 3/4 of the game. And they would always pack the best ideas into that first 1/4 of the game.
Right.
And it's essentially the same thing now. It's just being disguised as a beta, and then they don't really escalate the game beyond that when you actually buy it. It's just the same thing you did in the beta, and nothing really improves. And really, I think patient zero for this type of live service miasma that we have here is Destiny. I think that's truly the first example I can really look at and say, that's the one that fucked things up, improved, that you can launch a game in that state and get away with it.
Well, I mean, you can launch and get away with it because you have the brand behind it. And this goes to the previous point I was making about hype. I mean, as long as you have that brand loyalty, and all these corporations, EA, Activision, Take-Two, Ubisoft, all their IPs they've facilitated and just cultivated this brand loyalty. I mean, this goes back to the console wars even. You had Sega versus Nintendo. Then PlayStation came along and it was Nintendo versus PlayStation. Then Xbox shows them the Steam. Then it's Xbox and PlayStation with Nintendo, sticking around because it's fucking Nintendo. I don't think they'll ever go under. But to their credit, they're always innovating. But that brand loyalty makes you want to just not only defend your product, but also then just go out and buy it in droves, pre-order it. And so Destiny had the Bungie name attached to it. They had it's being created by Joe Staten, who is one of the masters of Bungie. So it's going to be great. It's, it's like, well, I don't know if it's going to be, it's going to be great. Are you sure? It's going to be great. I mean, that was kind of how it was. And if you didn't like it, you were a hater. And that goes for almost every game now. I mean, look at how Fallout 76 came out. It was, I can't fathom that got released like that. I mean, I'm sure there was some kind of development hell for it, but it just felt like they didn't even try. It's like, hey, we have a game coming out next week. Oh shit, we do. Hey, throw stuff that we got on, from the servers, just that we screw on with, and throw it out there. We'll fix it later. I mean, it was terrible.
Well, Fallout 76 is basically Fallout 4's. It's basically Fallout 4 multiplayer with a studio that doesn't know how to do multiplayer. So that's the fucking result of it.
And people defended that for so long. I mean, I think now they're finally going, okay.
They still are, dude.
It's not to the extent that it was.
People are still defending it.
Not to the extent, but
no, not to the extent, no.
But it was just defended. I'm like, how can you objectively look at this and defend it? I mean, that's the thing. I don't get. I mean, that's why these companies are able to do this stuff, because that hype train, that brand loyalty, the fanboys. And I'm guilty of that shit. I've done that in the past, so I can't say.
Oh, we all are.
I'd be a hypocrite by yelling at others and not saying that I was part of that. But this is why they can get away with it then, because we'll get the backlash, but people are still gonna buy it. I mean, we're still gonna make our money, so that's all that matters.
I think everybody has basically been a fanboy of something at some point, because I'll openly admit that I defended Resident Evil 6 when that game came out.
What is wrong with you?
Because it's Resident Evil. I can't possibly hate Resident Evil. I mean, let's be honest here. Resident Evil 6, basically Call of Evil, that's a good way of putting it. It's basically a hot dog turd on a skillet in the middle of the summer. Like, it is genuine shit. And I defended that game. Like, we've all been there, but you got to learn and grow and realize that, there's this thing called objective quality. And people like what they like. You can like something that's objectively bad. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like fucking dolphins that are on fire. That's an objectively bad thing to do, but I like it.
What?
I mean, and that's my frustration with fanboys, is that these companies have absolutely no reason to push out a quality product when they know that they're going to have a pack of phenomenal idiots that will come and defend them tooth and nail, mm-hmm. no matter the actual quality of it. And that's why we keep getting these broken, buggy games like this. Because they're like, well, all we have to do is just get people hyped up with a pre-rendered trailer and painfully scripted gameplay at E3, get everyone excited about it, release it, and then we'll have a bunch of fanboys that will come and defend it. So what is the point in even releasing a quality game anymore?
Well, you just raised a great point there when it comes to like E3, and let's throw out that teaser trailer. I mean, let's bring up Anthem at this point. And,
oh God, yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah, right, great example. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of Kotaku's stuff, but they do on occasion do some really good journalism. And to his credit, Jason Schreier does some really good journalism when he goes in those deep dive games. He did it for Andromeda. Yes. He's done it for BioWare games mainly, but he's done it for Andromeda. He did it for Anthem. He did a little bit for Dragon Age 4, but it's still in development.
But he did Destiny too.
Destiny as well. And so he, in his piece, it basically came out that when we saw Anthem for the first time, like that gameplay stuff, that literally was the very definition of the bullshot. That term, that what you're seeing is not the game. I mean, Ubisoft got rightfully panned back in the day for this with Watch Dogs, because, when you watch the original gameplay trailer, it looked amazing, and then when you got the actual game, it's, ugh, did someone just, take an ugly stick to this game? The graphics just got horribly downgraded. But of course, they tell you it's running in-game engine. That's the same thing that Anthem did. BioWare is like running in-game, because that's their little thing of trying to trick you. Oh, it's not CGI, because if we saw a CGI trailer, we knew this isn't the actual gameplay. This is just, it looks pretty. But if they're telling us this is the game, and the way graphic fidelity is nowadays, we kind of expect it, it could be this good. We bought into it. But that was all just made up. They didn't even have a game really yet, and that's what we fucking bought into.
Well, a lot of BioWare employees didn't even know what they were making until they saw that. And I like the way that they always word it too. This is, it's using the in-game engine. This is footage from the in-game engine. That's not actually a lie. What they showed was running on the Frostbite engine.
That's true.
However, it was nothing more than a proof of concept. Mm. That's all it was. It wasn't an actual game. It was nothing more than a proof of concept using the Frostbite engine.
That's a good point.
So it's them wording things to where they aren't actually liars, but they're fucking liars. Like, this isn't it. Aliens Colonial Marines is easily the best example of this. Easily, it's the best example of this. Because you look at all the footage from before that game came out to what the actual game is, they are completely different worlds.
I wanted that game to be
and
so
it's
good.
because everybody did, man. I'm an Aliens fan. I wanted it to be good, but when that game came out, my friend, he wanted it so bad. He bought 2 copies. He pre-ordered 2 copies, one for me and one for him. We played it. I can't remember if I finished the second mission or not, but what I do know is that I took it back to GameStop the very same fucking day it came out. It was so bad, and it's like, this is a complete fucking lie. Borderlands didn't launch in that kind of a state where it required an internet connection for you to even to be able to play the fucking thing.
No.
Yeah, it was better with people, it was better in multiplayer, but you could still play it and you wouldn't have any problems. Nowadays, like, you can play Destiny 2 without an internet connection, sure, but you're gonna fucking hate it. Anthem, you can't even play it without internet. Fallout 76, you can't even play without internet. And this is what I hate about these types of games. This is why I always champion single player. Single player stands on its own. Anything that has a multiplayer focus like this can't stand on its own 2 legs because it has so many external issues it has to face. I can never call a game great that requires internet for it to fucking work, because the second that the servers go offline,
That's it.
or, you know, they're down for maintenance, or they get turned off, or maybe your internet's not working, maybe you're traveling, you're in a hotel room that you can't connect to the internet, maybe you just have bad internet in general, the game is basically unplayable. And with these live service games, you're not really buying them, you're renting them until the developers feel like moving on to something else.
And that's the real problem with games as a service, I think, the long-term ramifications for this. Because, you know, for a game, we could load up an old game on an old system. I still have my SNES, I still have, you know, my N64, you know, I still have my old fucking Game Boy, you know, the original one. I can just pop in a game.
Yeah.
It works, it's great. I can still pop in a game, play it if I want to. And it's fun to do that. Sure, the graphics look like crap, but I don't care about graphics. I care more about the gameplay itself, you know, that gameplay repetitive loop,
Right.
and the story. You can still pop those in and play them whenever the hell you want. But now, I mean, as soon as you have that game, it has to have that online connection once the servers go down, because they always inevitably will go down. At some point in time, they're going to go down. That's it. Mm-hmm. And it's just...
Yeah. And if they don't go down, then the servers can be fucking complete ghost towns with nothing but tumbleweeds filling them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody will be playing it. So this is why I don't like those types of games. And this is what concerns me about the future of the gaming industry, is that the more companies that latch onto this, because every major publisher has a live service at this point, and they keep trying to push it. And the funny thing is that these are the same companies that have tried to convince us that people don't really care about single player. People don't really want that. But the single player games are the only ones doing well right now. Those are the only ones doing well right now. Multiplayer games, no one, it's like, only like complete cretins care about this stuff at this point, honestly. And I know I'm being a bit of a prick there, but come on, you can't tell me that people were buying Call of Duty Black Ops 4 for its artistic integrity. People were buying it because they wanted to get online and shoot dudes. It's like, well, there's dozens of other games that you can pick up to play that, you know? And this is like why, like, I look at like an example just from this year, like the Resident Evil 2 remake. It blew everybody's nips off. It's a phenomenal game, not a single online feature to it. You do not need internet to be able to enjoy that game. However, I want to play Anthem, but my internet's not working. Well, guess what? Now you have a digital paperweight on your hard drive. You know? So, I mean, the future, what are you concerned about with the future? Do you feel like things are turning around, though, because single player is doing so well? Or do you think that things will continue to get progressively worse?
So, I'm cynical like you. I mean, I'm practical, but I'm also cynical. And I just don't see it turning around unless there's something that major that forces the company to start turning around. Because, you know, single player is dead has been something they've been pushing for like 10 years practically at this point in time.
Well, longer than that, more like 20 years.
And, you know, you've had games that are single player that's come out the last couple of years that have been phenomenal, that shows, you know, people want single player if they're done well, you know, with the proper time development, not we just made this live service game in 12 months or less, you know, there it is, enjoy, we'll fix it later.
Right.
I mean, God of War went amazingly well. That's, I believe, all 100% single player. You have
Spider-Man,
obviously Spider-Man, Resident Evil 2, the redo, Nier
Devil May
Automata,
Cry.
Devil May Cry,
Yep,
all
Nier
those
Automata.
games.
Yep.
They're all single player games, and they're all phenomenal. I'll even throw in Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. That is an amazing game. It's a bit of an indie game, but it's still amazing game. And it's single player.
Fucking Cuphead.
Single player games do so well, but it's not about doing well. It's about making the money. And that's why I'm so cynical about the future of that. A single player game can just blow everyone out of the water. Everyone will love it. But that doesn't matter. And I might be going slightly off on a tangent, I'll admit that, but their games as a service now is trying to emulate, like, the mobile market to an extent. Because you can just keep throwing stuff out there and people will be engaged. Even just a little bit, you'll hook them and you can just slowly get more money out of them. Because once you sell a single player game, that's it. You're never going to get another cent from that person again. Maybe if you have DLC or stuff like that, you might. But generally speaking, that's it. You're not going to see any more from that person. But if it's a live service game, then you can potentially just slowly get money out of them forever. There's an initial price just to play at $60, bare minimum. Let's not even talk about collector's editions and all that shit like that. But $60, and then you have, maybe $5 here. Maybe $10 here. Maybe another, $5 here. 20 here. Over time, that just keeps generating more money, and that's why I don't think it's going to go anywhere until there's potentially a crash. I don't want there to be a crash, but part of me goes, I would love to see certain companies like EA or Activision or whatnot just to really suffer and kind of go under. I feel horrible for the actual developers who, they put their time and energy, their passion in these projects, and they get shit on for it. Because I don't think they want to make these games to be monetized to hell. I think they just want to actually make a game and be proud of that game. But when they're kind of forced to crunch it and try to make something work just so it can make as much money as possible, then I don't know, man. I don't see things going too well down the road.
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me because you're gonna have these shitty live service games that keep getting cranked out, but things really do feel like they're starting to turn around because even single player games were pretty bad for a while, where we weren't really getting a lot of them that were decent. Now we are. So I think a lot of companies are picking up on the fact that, hey, consumers just want good games. We don't care if they're live service or multiplayer or single player, we just want them to be good. And you need to implement those things correctly. And it seems like the industry might be starting to pick up on that a little bit, but probably not. I'm just trying to stay kind of optimistic, but I mean, as long as we're going to have, here's the thing, you have to have bad games in order to be able to truly appreciate the good ones.
That's true.
We're always going to have these bad games. But I want the games to be bad because the developers didn't know what they were doing. They were inept and made mistakes. I don't want them to be bad because they got ass cancer from getting fucked by the corporations.
Correct.
And that's where we're at right now. I don't know. Things could turn around. I think that they are because of how many great single-player games have come out recently. 2019 is already shaping up to be a good year because there's still several other games that are going to be coming out that'll probably be pretty rock solid this year. I'm trying to stay optimistic, but I know deep down in my heart that I'm just like, yep, it's probably going to be another year. Hey, at least it won't be another 2018 because 2018 was not very good.
I mean,
there was a handful of good games and most games sucked.
You say that, but they might surprise you by just showing you just how crappy they can be. Don't challenge those AAA developers.
This is the thing, is that every year it usually starts off strong. 2017 started off strong. 2018 just kind of wallowed around in its jacuzzi full of stale cum. But 2019 is starting off good. So you never know. I'm sure once October hits, things will go downhill again because it always fucking seems to do that. I think that's about all I got on this. You got anything else you want to add, Phil?
No, not really. I'm kind of depressed now, just thinking about all this.
Well, it is what it is. I mean, it needs to be called out and it needs to be discussed because nothing is ever going to improve if we continue to ignore it. And us, as consumers, we need to start taking some actual fucking responsibility here and stop giving these companies money when they do shitty things. And we need to stop defending it.
Stop pre-ordering.
Yeah.
Stop pre-ordering.
Stop pre-ordering. Stop with the microtransactions. Just wait for the game to come out. Look at the reviews from sources that you trust. If it looks like your pot of jam, buy it. If it doesn't, stay the fuck away from it. Don't give these companies money. They have more than enough. Mm-hmm. That's really all I can say. All right, now hold on. I need to go ahead and put my soapbox back in my closet. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. We'll go ahead and catch you guys next time. And thanks for tuning in.
People ask me if I worry about the future of the interactive arts in this era of AAA being a constant stream of soulless exploitative knockoffs, but I'm not worried because we've been here before. At the end of the 90s, games like Quake 3 and Unreal Tournament tried to convince us that we didn't really want artistic single-player PC games when we could just pay to run on hamster wheels all day. And look what the 2000s brought us. Deus Ex, Thief 2, Bioshock, Portal, it's always a phase. In the long run, the only eternal guarantor of success is a quality product well made, ideally with tits on the front. The money to be made from knocking off what's popular and exploiting the stupid always dries up eventually, if only because the stupids die out from daring each other to headbutt the ceiling fan.